All right, so get this. We're going deep on something that might sound kind of dry at first, but it's actually fascinating. Quality of design versus quality of conformance. And trust me, this stuff is everywhere.
You know, it's funny. We use products every single day and don't even think about why some of them are just better. Like, why do some things just work, and others, they're just a pain.
Yeah, exactly. Why do some companies just nail it with every product, while others, well, let's just say they have a few more oops moments?
Well, I think what's really cool here is that quality, it isn't just one thing. It's actually two, and they work together. There's quality of design, and that's basically how well the idea of a product or service is thought out. Does it meet your needs?
Right, like is it even the right product to begin with?
Exactly. And then there's quality of conformance, which is all about how well the actual product or service is made. Does it actually live up to the design? Like, is it built right?
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it. But can you give me an example? Something I can really wrap my head around.
Sure. Let's say you're buying a new car. Let's go all out. Imagine it's a super cool electric SUV, all the latest tech, autopilot, sunroof, even a built-in espresso machine. That's the promise, the quality of design that made you want it in the first place.
Okay, I'm sold.
But, and here's the catch, what if the software is glitchy, the battery doesn't last nearly as long as they advertised, and the espresso machine, well, it keeps blowing a fuse?
Oh man, that's like my worst nightmare.
So you're saying even a really cool design can be totally messed up if it's not built well.
Exactly, that's a quality of conformance issue. The reality doesn't match the design.
So even the coolest idea can fall flat if the execution isn't there. What about the other way around, though? Could a simple product with a really basic design actually be amazing because it's just made so well?
Absolutely. Think about a hammer, a regular old hammer. The design is super basic, probably hasn't changed much in hundreds of years. But if it's made with top-notch materials, perfectly balanced, and built to last forever, that's quality of conformance at its best. I get it. It might not be fancy, but it does its job perfectly, and it'll last forever. It's like comparing a super flashy sports car that breaks down all the time to a trusty old pickup truck that just keeps going. But doesn't focusing too much on just making things perfectly, like that conformance thing, doesn't that stifle creativity? Like, don't companies get scared to try new things if they're too obsessed with making everything perfect?
That's a great point, and it's something companies have to balance. Too
Yep.
much focus on just conformance, and you end up with companies that just make tiny changes, afraid to really innovate. But on the other hand, if you don't pay enough attention to conformance, well, you get those product launches where the product is buggy and doesn't live up to the hype.
So it's a bit of a tightrope walk, right? Push the boundaries with design, but make sure you can actually deliver on what you're promising.
Yeah,
New pressure.
for
Right?
sure. It's a challenge. But let's look at some examples, times when things went wrong. Maybe we can figure out how to avoid those pitfalls. You mentioned the Ford Pinto earlier, a classic design failure.
Oh, yeah, the Pinto, that whole fuel tank issue, right?
Yeah,
Super dangerous in rear-end collisions. It met the cost and weight targets, but, with a really scary cost to safety. Hundreds of deaths and injuries, lawsuits, and just a PR nightmare, all because of that one design decision.
and here's the thing. Even if every single Pinto had been made perfectly, without a single flaw, perfectly conforming to the design, the problem would still be there. The inherent danger wouldn't go away. Conformance can't fix a bad design.
So that's one extreme. What about a case where the design was actually good, but the conformance side messed things up?
Well, there was that big Toyota recall a few years back. You remember the one with the accelerator pedals?
Yeah.
Toyota, they're famous for their manufacturing processes and how much they care about quality, but they stumbled. And it wasn't a design problem, it was a manufacturing problem, a conformance issue that led to unintended acceleration.
Right, like the car would just speed up on its own. Scary stuff. So even with a good design, if the execution isn't there, you can still have big problems.
Exactly. And it cost them big time. Major recall, damage to their reputation, and a lot of very unhappy customers.
Okay, I'm starting to see how high the stakes are with all this. We've talked about cars, but does this design versus conformance thing apply to other industries too? Like, what about tech?
Oh, absolutely. Think about the Samsung Galaxy Note 7. You remember those phones catching fire? Turns out it was a double whammy, both design and conformance failures.
So they messed up twice.
Yep. The battery was just too big for the phone, a risky design choice. And then on top of that, there were problems with how the batteries themselves were made.
So like pushing the limits with the design and then not making it well enough? Recipe for disaster? What about software? Design and conformance seem really important there.
Totally. It's all about the code, right?
Huh.
Think about the game. Cyberpunk 2077. Huge hype. Everyone's waiting for it. And then launch day, It was full of
I
bugs.
remember that. Everyone was so disappointed.
A major conformance fail. The game itself, the design, was actually really cool and ambitious, but the execution, the quality of the code, just wasn't there. A lot of players were really turned off, even the ones who loved the idea of the game.
So whether it's something you hold in your hand, like a car or a phone, or something digital, like a video game, both design and conformance have to be on point for a product to be truly successful.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And that brings us to the next part of this conversation. How do quality of design and quality of conformance actually impact a company's reputation over time? What makes a product truly great and what makes customers trust a company?
Okay, now we're talking. That's where things get really interesting. Let's dig into that. But first, I need a coffee refill. All this talk about quality has me parched. All right, so we know that both quality of design and quality of conformance are super important for a product to be successful, but how does that translate to happy customers and a good reputation for a company?
Well, let's start with quality of design. That's what really sets the expectations right from the beginning. Take Apple, for example. They're all about that design excellence. Sleek looks, easy to use. They've set the bar pretty high, for sure.
So basically, if Apple releases something that doesn't meet those expectations, people are going to be a lot more disappointed than if some no-name brand did the same thing.
Exactly. Design sets the stage, you nail it, and you've got a bunch of loyal customers with high expectations. What about the flip side, though? How does quality of conformance build trust?
I'm all ears.
Think about those brands that aren't necessarily flashy or cutting edge, but they just work every single time. Like Toyota or Honda for cars, or maybe
Mm-mm.
Patagonia for outdoor gear. Their reputation is solid, built over decades of making products that just don't break down.
Right, it's all about dependability. Like you know it's going to work, and that's what keeps people coming back for more. Our sources mentioned something really interesting about this too. They said high quality of conformance can actually save companies money because they don't have to spend as much to get new customers. How does that work?
Well, think about it this way. If you're constantly putting out high-quality products, you're creating a loyal customer base.
Ah,
And those loyal customers, they do the marketing for you. Word of mouth is super powerful. Happy customers tell their friends, and that's way more effective than any expensive ad campaign.
makes sense. It's like they become mini brand ambassadors spreading the word about how great your product is. That's got to save a ton of money on marketing. So, quality of conformance not only makes customers happy, but it can also boost the bottom line. That's a win-win. But let's get real for a second. How much should companies actually invest in all of this? Is there some magic formula for how much to spend on design versus conformance?
That's the million-dollar question, right?
Mm.
And honestly, there's no easy answer. It depends on the industry, the product, and the company's overall goals. But we can break down the costs for each side. When you invest in quality of design, you're usually making a big upfront investment. Think research and development, prototypes, testing, maybe even using fancier materials to get that perfect look and functionality.
So it's kind of like building a house. If you spend the time and money to get the foundation right, you're less likely to have problems later on. What about quality of conformance? Where do the costs come in there?
Conformance is more about ongoing investment. It's making sure you have solid manufacturing processes, training your employees well, and setting up systems to control quality. And then you have to keep an eye on those systems, fine-tune them, make sure everything stays consistent.
So you're saying that investing in conformance is kind of like an insurance policy. You're protecting yourself from costly mistakes, recalls, and unhappy customers down the road.
Exactly. Remember that famous Crosby quote, "Quality is free." Of course, he didn't mean it literally, like you don't have to spend any money to achieve quality. What he meant was that spending money to get things right from the start is always cheaper than fixing mistakes later.
Right. It's cheaper to prevent a problem than to fix it.
Mm.
But is there ever a time when companies have to choose one over the other, like sacrifice design for conformance or vice versa?
In a perfect world, companies would invest heavily in both. But resources are limited. Time, money, people. There are always constraints. Sometimes tough decisions have to be made. Our sources seem to suggest that the biggest cost savings often come from getting the design right up front.
Really? It seems like design is this relatively small cost at the beginning, but it impacts everything else.
Exactly. Once you've decided on a design, it affects everything, the manufacturing process, the materials you use, even how easy it is to put the product together. A bad design can create hidden costs that stick with you throughout the entire life of the product.
It's like choosing the wrong type of wood for a house. You might save some money at first, but you'll pay for it later with repairs and maybe even structural problems. So, are you saying that companies should really focus on that early design stage to avoid hidden costs down the road?
Absolutely. But that doesn't mean you can just ignore conformance. A great design can still be ruined if it's not executed well. It's like having a perfect blueprint, but the construction crew cuts corners. The final product is still going to be a mess.
Okay, so what's the sweet spot? How do companies find that balance between design and conformance?
The ideal situation is when you invest enough in the design phase to make sure you're creating a product that truly meets the needs of your customers, that can actually be manufactured,
Mhm.
and that has those design for X things built in, and then you back that up with really good production capabilities and quality control systems so you can deliver on what you've promised.
It sounds like the best companies out there don't see this as an either thing. They figure out how to include both design and conformance thinking right from the start. Are there any companies that are really good at this, like real world examples?
For sure. Look at companies like Toyota or Apple. They're known for having amazing designs and really strict manufacturing processes. They don't just design something cool and hope it works out when it's being made. They design it with quality and production in mind.
Okay, so we've talked about the theory, the costs, and the importance of finding that balance. But how do companies actually put all this into practice? What are some of the best practices for making sure both design and conformance are top notch?
That's where things get really practical. And our sources are full of insights and examples of how companies are actually doing this.
Awesome. Let's get into that. I'm ready to learn from the best and see how they make it happen. Okay, so let's get down to the nitty gritty. Our sources talked about some companies that have really nailed this balance between design and conformance. But before we jump into those specifics, I'm kind of curious about the pioneers, the people who laid the groundwork for all this quality thinking. Who are the rock stars of the quality management world?
You can't talk about quality without mentioning the gurus, right? The big names, the ones who really shaped the field. Joseph Juran, he's got to be one of the most influential figures, one of the first to really make that distinction between design and conformance way back in the mid-20th century.
So he was like the OG of quality management.
Yeah, pretty much. Juran, he talked about how quality planning, which is kind of like the design side, and quality control, which is all about conformance, were two sides of the same coin. He emphasized that a product needs to be fit for use, meaning it has to be designed to actually meet the needs of the user, and of course, it has to be free of defects.
It's amazing how those ideas still hold true today, even with all the tech and everything moving so fast.
Totally. It's like he laid the foundation for everything that came after.
So who else is in that quality Hall of Fame? Any other big names we should know?
For sure. Philip Crosby, you've probably heard his famous line, "Quality is free."
Hmm.
It's a bit of a bold statement, but it highlights the idea that conformance, doing things right the first time, actually saves you money in the long run because you avoid all those costly mistakes.
Right, like all those hidden costs we talked about earlier, rework, scrap, warranty claims, and the hit to your reputation. That stuff can really add up.
Exactly.
Mm.
Crosby, he was all about investing in prevention. Spend a little up front to get it right, and you'll save a lot later. And then there's W. Edwards Deming, who really pushed the idea of continuous improvement. He believed that quality was everyone's responsibility, not just some separate quality department.
I like that, shifting the mindset from just inspecting things to constantly trying to make them better.
Exactly. And Deming, he was big on using data, statistical methods, to actually drive those improvements. His ideas were a huge influence, especially in Japan. They even created the Deming Prize, which is a huge deal for companies that achieve world-class quality.
So we've got these quality gurus, but what about real-world examples? Who out there is actually putting these ideas into practice and knocking it out of the park?
Well, Toyota's a classic example. I mean, they're practically synonymous with quality, and it's no accident. Their Toyota Production System, TPS, is legendary. It's all about eliminating waste, reducing variation, and getting as close to perfect conformance as possible.
And they're super strict with their suppliers too, right? Like they don't just trust them to get it right. They work really closely with them to make sure everyone's on the same page when it comes to quality standards.
Exactly. And then you have a company like Apple, which has built its whole empire on design excellence. Their products, they just look good, feel good, and they work.
Apple, they invest heavily in design research, user testing, and all those design for X things we talked about earlier. They want their products to be beautiful, yes, but also easy to make, reliable, and intuitive to use.
And while they haven't been perfect, I mean, everyone makes mistakes, they've done a pretty amazing job of balancing design and high-quality execution.
It's interesting, isn't it? Toyota and Apple, they kind of represent different sides of that quality coin. Toyota is all about operational excellence and that laser focus on conformance, while Apple is known for its design and creating products that people just want to have. But they've both been incredibly successful because quality is at the core of what they do.
And it shows that there isn't one right way to do quality management. You have to find the right balance for your industry, your product, and what your customers want. Take healthcare, for example. The stakes are even higher there, right?
Right. Our sources talked about how hospitals are using design thinking to make patient care better. They're creating standardized procedures and checklists to reduce errors, and they're implementing systems to make sure those procedures are followed consistently.
And it's the same as in manufacturing. You need a well-designed system, and people have to follow through. A hospital can have the best equipment and the smartest doctors, but if communication breaks down or procedures aren't followed, patients are at risk.
It just goes to show that these concepts, design and conformance, they're not just for physical products. They apply to any system where you're trying to create consistent, reliable, high-quality outcomes.
Absolutely. And then you have industries like aerospace and software, where things like reliability, safety, maintainability are crucial. One mistake, and things can go really wrong.
Our sources mention that software companies are using agile methodologies and continuous testing more and more these days. It's all about building quality into every step of the process, from figuring out what you need to build to actually launching the software.
And they're using all sorts of tools to catch bugs early on, things like automated testing and continuous integration. It helps minimize those costly and sometimes dangerous glitches that can pop up in software.
So it seems like no matter what industry you're in, whether you're building cars, smartphones, video games, or even delivering healthcare, understanding how design and conformance work together is key to success.
It all comes down to making sure you're not only creating the right thing, but also delivering it consistently and reliably, meeting those customer expectations and even exceeding them every time. That's how you build trust, and that's how you deliver real value.
This deep dive has been amazing. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of how quality impacts everything around us. So, what's the final thought you want to leave our listeners with? What's that one key takeaway they should keep in mind?
Here's something to consider. In a world where we have so many choices, understanding quality, both the design side and the conformance side, gives you the power to make smarter decisions as a consumer. You can get more for your money and maybe even inspire others to create better quality products and services.
It's like having the secret decoder ring for quality. Start paying attention to those little details. The design choices, how consistently things are made, those small things that really make a product stand out. You'll be surprised how much more you appreciate the things around you.
And who knows, maybe you'll even start asking yourself, how can I bring a little more quality to my own work? Because in the end, quality is something we can all strive for, whether we're designing a product, providing a service, or just living our lives.
That's a fantastic point to end on. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive. It's been a real pleasure exploring this world of quality with you. And to our listener, thank you for joining us. We hope you've enjoyed the conversation. See you on the next deep dive.